President Donald Trump is not happy with the new inflation data that has come out. ABC News reports that egg prices soared 53% in January compared to a year ago. Beef prices climbed 5%, and bacon jumped 6%, as all compared to last year. Now, Trump, of course, responded to this by taking to his platform
Truth, essential.
to declare this the fault of Joe Biden. Biden inflation up, he posted. Yeah. So, I mean, that's not how that works, but okay. Why do I say that? Well, first off, we've had Donald Trump's trade wars, okay? He's got tariff threats on foreign steel and aluminum that have already raised prices, okay? The markets are kind of freaking out a little bit over this. Now, you also have bird flu raising the price of eggs. But what about gas prices? I mean, he said he's going to drill, right? I mean, he is gonna unleash American energy. Oh, looks like the cost of gas also went up 1.8%. Oops. As far as consumer goods go, those are going to go up too. For example, the VP of an electronics store in Illinois, named Phil Hannon, is expecting to raise his own prices by 3 to 15%. And why? It's because he's received notices from vendors over the past couple of weeks warning about price increases, though they have not been specific, but that's in relation to the trade war. Hannon also said that many customers are already asking about price increases and when the Trump tariffs are coming. Okay. Everything else, and excluding food and gas, because I just talked about that, went up by about 0.3%. So it's weird how everything that, everything is going up, even though that Trump had promised that it would go down on day one. Day one. But look, I live in reality, okay? And the reality is, I know that the president does not control gas prices or egg prices or the price of bacon, okay? You can't really blame all this on Donald Trump, but you also can't blame all this on Joe Biden, okay? But again, that's what Republicans did for that entire election, make it about, rising price of eggs, rising price of this, rising price of that, Joe Biden's all Joe Biden inflation. But it's not. Okay, at the end of the day, ultimately, it comes down to, the companies. There's also the Federal Reserve, plays a pretty big role with lending. There's a lot of different factors that factor into inflation, okay? So now, Donald Trump, he wants to cut interest rates, which will make it easier for him to borrow money. Now, that said, that's probably going to increase inflation, okay, which would not be good for the economy. Then, of course, you have Trump doing tariffs, which is a tax on the American people. So we're going to end up having to pay more for the imports of and the cost of these things, because basically we import a lot of things, not just like finished goods, but a lot of parts, a lot of raw materials, and so that's going to cost us more. Look, I understand that the president does not. There's not a lot that they can do personally to do to solve inflation. Okay, Congress can do things, the Fed can do things, and the president can do some things, right? I mean, for example, Congress could try to raise wages for workers to offset the inflation. Okay, so you're not really solving the inflation, but you're mitigating the impact that it has by making sure that workers have more spending power. Okay, they could also tax rich people. They could crack down on the price gougers. I mean, about half of all the price increases, called inflation, is actually due to corporate greed. This is greedflation. This is our costs went up slightly for a short time. They went back down, but that's okay. We're going to keep our prices high anyway and pocket the difference. Executive bonuses, do some stock buybacks, that kind of stuff. Yes, that's what happened. Look, COVID made prices for a lot of things go up. There were supply chain issues, right? Those are pretty much solved. So the input costs for a lot of these businesses went down, but their prices never went back down. And we know it's because of the profit motive. We have companies that are more profitable than they've ever been. We have Zoom calls where CEOs are sitting there bragging about keeping prices high and then making record profits. Like, oh man, we were so profitable. Inflation. Yes, that's what it is. And look, it's not just about all that. We've got the national debt, thanks to Bush Jr. and Trump's tax cuts for the rich, adding a massive amount to our national debt. Okay. Um, Look, that's money, by the way, borrowed by the government through treasury bonds. And when they pay back those, those bonds, you end up paying interest. The government pays interest to those bondholders on that debt. There's also supply and demand. For example, housing. Private equity buys up a lot of homes that are built, and then they basically rent it out at extremely, higher prices, higher and higher prices. You've got new houses that are not being built. We don't have enough new housing, and what is being built is getting snapped up by private equity. All of that stuff contributes to inflation. It contributes to normal people not being able to afford to live in this country. Okay. Now, look, you can slow it through policy. And Joe Biden did slow it through policy. It slowed it through, slowed that inflation rate down. You can't deflate because if you do, that's the only way to do that is through a recession or a depression. Okay. That said, while Biden did slow down the rate of inflation, there were still many people in this country who were not doing very well economically. And so they blame the party in charge. Now, one way that the Federal Reserve tries to ease inflation, it's pretty much one of their only tools they have, is by raising interest rates, and that creates unemployment. Yeah. So, but why would you want that? Well, again, more people who are unemployed, they're not making money, they're not spending money. That's going to lower the cost of goods. Okay, so now that said, you had inflation that slowed, but unemployment went up, and of course, not only did unemployment go up, but underemployment went up, and of course, wages did not go up enough to really make people feel like we're at getting ahead, getting anywhere. Okay, and so, but Jeff, you don't understand. Unemployment was near record lows back in November. What are you talking about? You know why? It's because the unemployment metrics that they count, they're BS. They've always been BS. Okay, they even count homeless people doing occasional work as gainfully employed. Okay. And so, well, I mean, yes, they're homeless or barely making any money to get by. They're, can't afford anything, but technically they're employed. Oh, it also counts as employed the millions of people who are underemployed. These are people who only work a few hours each week while they are searching for full-time work. Okay. And those making poverty wages of about $25,000 a year, they're all counted as being employed. So, oh yeah, low unemployment, but having low unemployment does not mean that people are doing well. Okay, this does not take into account the many Americans who are also have been so discouraged that they are no longer trying to get a job. And so, if you include all of those people in this metric, then yeah, you'd have an unemployment rate of somewhere around 23.7%. Nearly 1 out of 4 people. That's insane. Okay. So basically, people are not doing well, and they haven't been doing well for quite some time. Okay. This is a problem that's predated Joe Biden. Okay. And will continue under Trump. Of course, no, you have boomers, some of the boomers, and wealthier people, especially pundits, that are out there saying, "Oh, it doesn't have anything to do with that. Everything's great. The economy's awesome. The only reason that you can't afford homes is because of avocado toast and big screen TVs." What? No, what's funny is in reality, big screen TVs, these so-called luxury items, are actually cheaper, okay, than they were previously. The things that are considered luxury goods or were considered luxury goods in the past are actually way cheaper than they were before. But on the other hand, you have the housing, the basics, food and energy. They're way up. Education, massively more expensive than it used to be. And so that's the problem. And nobody wants to admit that this is going on. You certainly don't have a lot of Democratic politicians that are admitting that it's going on, and Republican politicians. Are you kidding me? No, no. They're not talking about the real issues. They're just blaming it on wokes and transgenders. Okay, that's what they do. All right. No, this is that problem. This is the problem, and Trump's policies are not going to make it any better. He never had a plan to deal with inflation. He just used it during his campaign to make people who, are struggling. Some of them say, well, why don't we just give the Republicans a shot then? No, what the problem really is the massive concentration of wealth stop. Okay. Sure, there's more money. There is more wealth in this country, but it's in less and less people's hands. And Trump and the Republican Party, they can't and won't do anything about it. The whole purpose of Trump and the Republican Party, you remember, is to accelerate the transfer of wealth to the rich. And as far as the Democrats are concerned, it's all about trying to keep the status quo. And so that's why the Democrats really haven't done much to fight against that concentration of wealth either. There's some good ideas that have never really been embraced by the party as a whole. Things like wealth taxes, okay, put up by Elizabeth Warren, but not really taken up by the rest of the party leadership. And so this is why we're in the situation that we're in. Things are going to continue to get worse under Donald Trump because none of his policies will be able to help to do this, to solve any of these problems. Only if you come from a leftist progressive approach can you actually solve these systemic issues. And unfortunately, we do not have a leftist/progressive political party in this country. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.